Have you visited our site since Wednesday?
Yeah.
All right. Don't worry, my feelings will not be hurt. You know, it's okay. It's just there as an additional resource for you. This class, did I explain, is what we refer to as web enhanced. So it's not a hybrid course where you actually are required to complete things online, although we have that option. But really, a lot of the tools and things are just there so you can have it for reference and so forth. So I just want to show you that if you go under modules, you go to week number 1. I updated it with the information that we did in class, so the video lectures are there. This one is kind of choppy. I don't know if you watch it. It's sort of, I had to go through and put it all together. And I think that's because I had the setting off. It wasn't on extended recording. So I had to become like a media person, like make a movie or something with Media Maker. I'm not Steven Spielberg, so it didn't work out quite right. But I think there's enough there you can get what you need if you have to go back and listen to this lecture, okay? Here's the case that we were discussing and using as an example. And then here's our beginning part of our case briefing that we were drafting in class. And that's what we're going to pick back up on this morning. We okay with that? All right, so I'm going to come back to that in just a moment. Let me go out here and go to week 2. Because for today, we're going to talk about a jurisdiction, venue, and statute of limitations. And then you'll see if you don't, some people mentioned that you didn't have their book just yet. So the pages are here for the reading, and then there's also a copy of the PowerPoint slide. I have a hard copy that I'll give to you too. It's going to be hot off the press. It's on the printer right now. So when we take a break, I'll run downstairs and grab that. Then it's even up there for Wednesday, and we'll have a little exercise related to Wednesday. Okay? Everybody got any questions? You guys, this is a tough class. It's Monday, it's 8:30. Now, did you guys watch that show, Last Comic Standing or something? You ever see that show? Now I'm realizing like the pressure that's on them to make people last if you're the first one to go up. Because y'all are just like, All right, let's go back here. And I think, hopefully this is a Word document. Yes, good. So we can just continue from there, and then I'll upload it again, okay, with what we finished. So you guys have the case with you? Yes? All right. View. So let me save that. Let's just save it on the desktop. And then that way we can make some changes to it. Okay. There we go. A little bit bigger. Is that good? See? Okay. So if you notice, what I did is I went back and I cleaned up our version that we had done in class a little bit. And then, so in the black text, that's what you would have. The red writing is just me sort of trying to remind you what you're doing in each of those sections. Is that okay? All right, so we got through the material facts. We had spoken about the procedural history. We went through a couple of different points of view. Remember, how many points of views are you supposed to articulate? 4, exactly. So the immediate parties, the plaintiff and the defendant, and then 2 additional perspectives. Okay? And why did I tell you I wanted you to do that? Other than just me just being type A and a hard butt, you know, right. What does it have to do with in terms of the law, interpretations, critical thinking, objectivity?
I don't remember.
No, it's huh? I hope it's in your notes. All right, but remember, it's the idea of being able to look at the same set of facts from different perspectives. that will help you better understand or articulate and argue your own position, and it will also enable you to understand another perspective, right? So that you can either respond, or occasionally you might actually agree with the other side, right? And adopt their logic in thinking about the case and its interpretation. All right. From there, we talked about the issue or questions presented. Remember, I told you I want you to phrase it as a question, and this is essentially what question is the court being asked to answer. And we spoke about different keys or clues. Sometimes the court will be very nice and say the issue before the court is, or the parties contend, or the parties argue, and all of these are clues as to what the court is being asked to decide or determine. Rules. So hopefully, again, the court's not just sort of, going on a whim, or its emotion is looking at some sort of guidance for its analysis in the case. And that guidance might come from a previous case or cases that they decided where there was a similar issue. It might come from a statute itself where they articulate the statute and the elements of the statute. It might hit Constitution, right? So any source of law that the court articulates as guidance for how it's going to look at that issue and make a determination. Any questions about that? Okay, and we stop right at the meat. I told you, remember that the application is the heart of the case briefing, because that's where we're going to apply the rules to the facts. And basically what we want to do is just walk the reader through the court's analysis. How did the court say that these facts met the elements of this particular test? Okay with that so far? So in order to understand the application, we have to understand the rules. So let's go back and refresh our memory here as to what one of the rules were. So remember what the case is about, right? We have a custodian who works at a school district. She's required to report to work, and she has to clean up the scene of a suicide of a student that she knew, right? So she's cleaning up blood and brain matter. Sorry, it's a lot for 8:30 in the morning, but you remember the general facts, right? And so she files a case, and she's alleging, what were her causes of action? So intentional infliction of emotional distress and negligence, right? Okay? And so the response had been below. The court had granted the parties' motion for dismissal because they agreed with the defendants that what? Why did they agree with the defendants, the school district?
It wasn't under the Industrial Act.
Because it was.
Exactly. So you're right in some sense. We're talking about the Industrial Act, and then your peers helped you out in that they contended that, wait a minute, this is covered by the Industrial Insurance Act. That's workers' comp. This is an on-the-job injury. That's your exclusive remedy. You don't get to go outside of that and sue us for tort.
And what she was arguing, in fact, was that it was outside of the scope of her daily duty.
Yeah.
That's right. And so that's why we get the court telling us, okay, well, what's course of employment? So that's one of the rules that they talk about. They say, okay, well, first of all, is this covered by the Industrial Insurance Act? And the way that we answer if it's covered by the Industrial Insurance Act, we have to decide a couple of things. Was she acting in the course of employment? That make sense?
Yeah.
So that's hopefully one of the rules that we articulated. Let's see. So what rules? The Industrial Insurance Act provides exclusive remedy for workers who are injured during the course of their employment. So now we have to understand, okay, well, what does course of employment mean then? Acting in the course of employment is defined as blah, 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 blah. Employer working at the direction of their supervisor or so forth. We okay with that? All right, so let's just stop right there. We go down to the application. So here, we're gonna begin to explain the court's analysis. The court has to first address the issue of whether or not she was acting in the course of employment. The court says she was acting in the course of employment because X, Y, Z. And we summarize the court's analysis. Or the court says she was not acting in the course of employment because of X, Y, Z. So what does the court say? We're gonna look at the analysis.
Yeah.
And if you don't have it, remember I put it on Canvas, so you can, if you have your phone or your Your laptop or your iPad or your tablet or your,
It's not
Okay.
opening, it's on.
Yeah, it says it, yeah.
it says what
It's
now?
on preview mode.
What does that mean?
Basically,
Well,
it
it says
says
that you haven't
posted
technically
it or something,
posted it.
yeah.
Let's see, hold on one second, let's go back here.
Even this right here.
They haven't published.
Yeah.
This is good, this is, so it's right there on the things that should
Yeah, and
be
it won't open.
It won't open.
Ah, let's go look under files real quick and see if there's a lock or something.
Else, like when my part classes started, it's if you're not.
Case briefing sample, there's no lock
Oh, yeah,
on
that's
it.
what it says.
Case briefing example.
Let's see what happens.
Class exercise, case
But
See,
briefing.
it's coming-
If
so-
you currently be processed, please try again later.
Yeah,
That's good.
it's not opening for me.
It's not locked, but that's.
This
See, that
file
would
is
say
part of
lock.
the unpublished module and it's not available yet.
Probably because you're still
So are you
working on it.
looking, so are you looking in week one?
Yeah,
Yeah,
So you go to week one.
so I'm gonna try file.
No, this is really good. I'm glad we're finding
Yeah.
this out because otherwise I wouldn't know you can see it.
Yeah.
Let's see, let me do it
Then
this
I
way.
wanna type that all up.
Let me go to, let me go to settings. Let me go over here to student view. All right, so now let me go over here to modules. So this is, I should see what you see.
yeah.
Okay, so you can see this, right?
Yep, week one, yeah.
Click on that.
Yep,
You
same-
go
Same
down.
spot, all the way down to the bottom there.
You're going right here.
Yep.
Oh, you did it.
Ah.
I do get
See,
it.
we're not dumb.
Why is it part of it? Well, first of all,
Just
I
a
would
little
never
slow.
suggest that.
Just a little slow.
But I gotta understand the issue and sort of see what's happening, okay? So I kind of take offense to that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I do
was
indeed.
just joking.
I would never make the suggestion that you're
Oh,
stupid.
no, I never would have made the suggestion that
Okay.
you would.
All right, well, it sounded like that,
Oh,
so.
no.
All right, yeah, because I thought we had
Oh, yeah.
established
Oh, we
something.
are. We're
Okay.
good.
So let me see how we can fix this then. So let's go over here to modules. I don't understand because it's open. Okay, let me leave student view. Go down here, go down here. Okay, let's try this one. Go back to modules and look under case briefing instructional documents. Look, I wonder if these, you know what? This is not published here.
Yeah.
So I wonder if that's why you
There you
can't
go.
see it, but that's so weird, because if I have it open someplace else, why would they? This is a Canvas sort of, complaint issue. All right,
But
so
maybe,
now,
maybe you have the option
So
for
go
you
to-
to open it only, and then you can publish it for us to see it as well, because maybe they don't want you to publish it till after you're like complete.
because if I have it available for you here, it should be available. But go back and see now if you can see it, that's
So
the
I'm
main
in
point.
modules right now, and then where do I go from there?
Okay, so now go back to week one,
Okay.
and now see if you can open it. I'm gonna try.
Okay. So go to the same spot, try again?
Yeah, go to the same
Okay.
spot.
Alright.
Yeah, because that was the
You wanna,
point.
oh, yeah, now I can open it.
Oh.
So open it.
So if I have it locked in one place,
Yeah.
it locks it in every place. Okay. All right. Well, glad we got that sorted, guys. Thank you for taking the time to do that. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So now let's go back. So my point was, if you don't have the hard copy, you can now look on Canvas, and now we verify, we fixed the issue, so now you should be able to see it. Okay. Thank you so much. All right. So application. The court, something, the issue of course of employment. So what do we say?
Meredith dismissing Miss Roswell's case.
So let's look at page, what's the page number? I wrote all over my document, so I can't even see it. Page 5.
Page 5, yeah.
Page 5. And I'll tell you, this is a beautifully written opinion because it even has like a little heading that tells what they're gonna talk about. So you see how it says A in course of employment. Look, I am not a nerd. You will come to appreciate these things later on. Okay. So course of employment. She first contends her action is not barred, blah, 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 because it provides coverage only to workers injured in the course of employment. And so what's her contention? Keep reading. Why does she say it's not in the course of employment?
Yeah. It's not a daily duty.
Yeah. Of course, remember we spoke about this on Monday and we had to get a little explicit and vulgar? It's like, she's
Yeah.
not cleaning toilets.
Yeah.
Right, she's not washing the
Cleaning
windows.
drains.
Yeah.
Of somebody that she knew.
Exactly. So this is our, so we now we understand her position and we understand that this is the place where the court's talking about it. Now what does the court say? What does the court say? So the court goes on, look at,
She was acting in the.
Because if she was directed to do it by her employer, then.
and then finding whether the employee is acting in the course of employment, court considers specific direction and so forth. Okay. Keep going. So this is all her argument. So the court's being really thorough here, and they're going through and they're articulating, okay, here's why she's arguing this is not in the course of employment. Now let's get down to 23. The last full paragraph on page 6. Thus the fact that, what does the court say here?
Just because she was doing duties that normally she went to jail, doesn't mean she wasn't. Doesn't answer the question of whether she was acting in the course of employment.
So does the court agree with her position?
No.
So what we're gonna do here under the application, we're just say the court first examines the issue of course of employment. The court goes on to explain that she was indeed acting in the course of employment because she was being, course of employment relates to being directed by the employer and do specific acts and so forth. And here, that's what the facts demonstrate, according to the court. You see that? That's the application, at least for that one particular issue.
All the front, the side, and the side, all that.
Just that short.
I'm trying to think, I need to respond very carefully. Yes, that's the court's application, but no, that's not what you're gonna write. Does that make sense? So yes, that's the court's application, right? And you need to read it and understand it. But then what you're gonna do is summarize that, because we just summarized that in like 2 to 3 sentences. Oh, come on, don't hesitate. Does that make sense? Because remember, it's supposed to be a briefing, right? So you're just giving us a brief. Well, what are the facts, right? What are the parties' perspectives? What's the issue? What are the rules the court's going to use to decide the issue? And then summarize the court's analysis. So if I had to take this to the court and use it, right, and I had to sort of have a little cheat sheet, right, because I'm making an argument and I'm relying upon this case as an analogy. Well, Your Honor, in this case, you know, the plaintiff was an employee at a school and she was required to clean a suicide scene. She argued that she was not acting within the scope of her employment. In that case, the court said actually because she was being directed to perform specific acts, that did constitute being in the course of employment. Bam! That's your application. Okay? Yes? Did I lose anyone? I think on Wednesday when we start class, we'll play some music first.
Yeah.
We
Wake everybody
go.
up.
You know what? I was gonna bring donuts and I forgot. No donuts? No.
It's long enough that you have to.
Well, I figured, you know, if I bring you donuts, you get the sugar high, and then by the time like class is over, you.
You really want to hype this up on sugar?
Okay.
I'll do
Perfect,
pizza.
that way.
All right.
Pizza.
At 8:30 in the morning.
Sure.
And pizza is not Atkins friendly. Neither is donuts, but they have like some. I was gonna substitute with a rice cake.
It's the only way.
That's a little bit too much information, right?
No, it's not. You can make rice.
They make them with rice?
You know those little, little Quaker rice cakes, they're all dry and plain, and you know what I mean, like taste like chocolate, you know. Okay, but I digress. Okay, let's stay focused. That has nothing to do with brain matter, people. Let's talk about the cake. I
You
know.
digress to that?
All right.
We can take a break.
I really do. And this is why it's my struggle. Okay, so course of employment. So that's the first thing that the court has to decide, right? So what's the next thing? So we get the analysis on that. And then the next issue is, okay, so we determined that she's acting in the course of employment. Now, so that's one thing. But we still have to meet the second element.
is this an injury or an occupational disease? Remember, because we can say that you're acting in the course of employment, but if what you suffer is not an injury or an occupational disease, then that would also mean that it would be okay for her to file her suit outside of the Industrial Insurance Act. You okay with that? All right. So now let's see what the court says. Next, Ms. Rockwell contends that her action is not barred because her claims are not based on an injury or occupational disease. So in our application, the court next examines the issue of whether or not what happened to her constitutes an injury or was an injury or an occupational disease. The court explains, and then we're going to summarize the court's analysis. So let's see what the court says.
So wouldn't that be under paragraph 26, the pursuant to WSC? Mental condition caused by stress.
So we kind of skip down, but let's go back. Let's go back up to 25 because we first got to deal with whether or not it's an injury. An industrial injury is defined in the Act as a sudden and tangible happening of a traumatic nature, producing an immediate or prompt result. So that's an industrial injury. Okay. Occupational disease. Disease or infection arises naturally and proximately out of employment. So we got the two definitions there. So in our rules section, we might have articulated this up there. So we know very clear what definitions the court is working with, because now the court's going to apply this rule to the facts. Okay, so let's keep going. All right, Ms. Rockwell, look at page 7. Uh-oh. Let's give her.
You were like mid 25.
Okay, yeah.
I don't know why. Apparently I liked 26.
You like 26? Let's go to
I don't know
26.
why.
Let's go to 26. All right, so let's page 6, 26. Mental conditions caused by stress that do not fall within occupational disease specifically include conflicts with a supervisor, actual or perceived threat of loss of job, demotion, or disciplinary action, relationship with supervisors, blah, 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 blah. So here's just for the further expanding on what doesn't constitute.
Objective or subjective stresses of employment?
Well, wouldn't it be the fear of exposure? Because she was exposed to the body.
Right, but look what the court is saying. The court's saying that this does not constitute an occupational disease. Does that make sense? So the court, yeah. So what they're doing is they're explaining to us what is meant when we say injury and what's meant when we say occupational disease. And here what they're saying is that in the WAC, in the Washington Administration Code, what we have is a definition of mental conditions caused by stress, and it explicitly, so caused by stress that do not fall within occupational disease specifically include, so these things are not included in
It's a
there.
single traumatic,
Mm-hmm.
but it wasn't, and so that's why we're saying it doesn't.
Okay, well but that's what we're trying to find out. So we're reading the court's analysis to find out, okay, how do they reach the conclusions they reach? Okay, so a mental condition can qualify as an industrial injury under RCW 51 if the condition resulted from a sudden, tangible, and traumatic event that produced an immediate result. We're okay with that?
Yeah.
All right, let's keep going, because we still don't know what they've said about her situation. They're just giving us definitions still, okay? So now we get to the court's sort of articulation of the plaintiff's position. So Ms. Rockwell correctly argues that her claim is specifically excluded from the statutory definition of an occupational disease. So now what the court's applying the definitions, right?
Yeah.
And the court says, this does not meet an occupational disease. And now we're gonna read further to hopefully understand why the court says that. Her PTSD was not the result of a single traumatic event. Because remember, the definition just said that it has to be a result of a single traumatic event, okay? She asserts that the directives and orders from the district and her performance of traumatizing duties over a period of several days Therefore, she argues that her stress-induced mental condition is not an industrial injury. So what she's saying is that so under both of these definitions, right? When we go back to that first page we just read, an industrial injury or even a mental health something that we're gonna say is an occupational disease, what the WAC says, and the court is sort of informing us, is that it has to be based upon a sudden, like it's something specific and sudden that happens. Ow! I hurt my knee.
Yeah.
You follow me?
Yeah.
Ow! She bust me in the eye. It's on accident. But it's gonna be a specific, sudden thing that happens, and that's what's gonna cause my injury. And if so, then it's a workers' comp issue. Does that make sense?
Yes.
But in this instance, what she says is no. It was not just one thing that happened at one time. It was continuous and multiple. It was this, the brain matter. It was this, the blood. It was this, the bomb in the bag.
Yeah.
Right? It was this coming back the next day and having to console other people when I knew the student too. It was all of these multiple different things at different times. So therefore, it's not one specific thing that would make the Industrial Insurance Act my exclusive remedy. Does that make sense? So that's the court's analysis of that issue. Well, wait. We don't know. So they're articulating it. So let's go further though, and let's see if the court agrees. All right, jump the gun. Got a little too excited because we know how this case ends, right? I mean, you get so excited and you think, oh yes, because this is so sad.
I really thought she had a good case.
Yeah.
One thing though.
All right. So look at paragraph 30. Ms. Rockwell was given a series of orders by various supervisors, including the school vice principal and district superintendent. She performed those duties not only on the day of the incident and the following morning, but for several days thereafter. Okay. Moreover, her mental condition, is not the result of any one particular or identifiable task ordered by the district. So this is the court seeming to say, we agree with this. Blah, 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 blah. Next column at the top, over the next few days, she began to exhibit anxiety, sleeplessness, reoccurring nightmares, frequent crying, and was ultimately diagnosed with PTSD. Under these facts, you see what the court says?
Yeah.
Her mental condition was not the result of exposure to a single traumatic event.
So they're agreeing.
So they are agreeing. All right, let's keep going.
Quick question.
Yes, ma'am.
Where, I'm reading through this again, is there a place where it really specifically describes the original Superior Court's opinion? Like why, it says they dismissed because they said that she didn't have a claim. But why did she not do why? Is this explained anywhere in here, or is this really just the appeals?
Yeah, but it does explain, because remember, that's the issue. So remember, whenever we have appeal, right, what we're saying is that the lower court erred. All right, so we have to be able to articulate why is it that we're saying that the lower court erred. So where are we going to find that information about what the lower court did and why? What part of our case briefing is that going to be at? Procedural history. So go back and look at the very beginning of the case, and we're going to have an explanation of that. So it's going to be in the case.
Well, it just says that the trial court's decision to grant a motion to dismiss for failure to state claim. So
No, it says a lot more than that. You got to read through it all. And this one on Monday, that's what I was emphasizing. Be an active reader, because every time there's something that you need for your case briefing, you want to be able to mark it, right? So that we learn more than that. So keep going. So the issue itself, it also tells us what the trial court ruled upon. So give you a hint. Go back and look at page 5. Look at the left-hand column. Look,
The analysis.
I struggle with the right and the left. And look at the second full paragraph. Finding Ms. Rockwell's claim against the district were precluded by the exclusivity provisions of RCW 5104. So that's some basis, right? And then you go to look at page, are you on page 5? The second full paragraph?
Standard of review.
No, you're not on page 5. Or you are on page 5, but you go back up. Second full paragraph, number 14.
Oh, okay.
See that right there? And then we get some more. Under paragraph 16, issue whether the trial court erred by dismissing her claims of the exclusivity provisions. And then we get some explanation as to why they did it, because they were saying that she was not injured in the course of employment. Or excuse me, that she was injured in the course of employment, because their whole thing is that it's barred because of the Industrial Insurance Act. Does it make sense? All right. Everybody okay with that? Okay. All right. So, so let's get back to the. Yeah, let's go back to the. All right. So let's see. So let's page 8 here. 36. Similarly, Ms. Rockwell's PTSD did not result from a single traumatic event, rather it resulted from a series of incidents over a period of time. Furthermore, the trauma did not immediately result. Therefore, we conclude. So that's now getting to the conclusion part, right? So that's going to help us on our holding and whatever. But right now, we know how the court has applied those facts. Or how the court, applied the law to the facts. So in terms of, so we said the first thing the court does is determine whether or not she was in the course of employment, right? We talk about that. The court next turns to the question of whether or not what happened to Ms. Rockwell was an industrial injury or an occupational disease. In looking at the definitions, the court determines that because it was not one singular act, but multiple things, multiple directions, and the symptoms occurred over a series of days, that it was not an industrial injury or an occupational disease, period. Does that make sense? And that's the court's application. Let's see if we really got it. All right. Let's brute brain power this out. So who wants to take a stab at writing the application as we've just done? Or not the application, a portion of it. Okay, how about that? So the course of employment issue. Do you want me to do pinata? Come on. All right, okay, fine. Or you can come up and type.
I don't want to type it.
You want to type? Okay. So can I get a type? Can I get a typer?
You've seen my
Can
spelling.
I get a typist?
Okay.
Is it a typer or a typist?
Typist.
Typist. You want to be typist? Thank you so much. All right. And now, can we get the Speaker of the House, please? We can do this together. We're gonna do it together. So how are we gonna start?
Okay, so for our application, we define what the.
So we're walking us through the court's analysis, right? We're explaining how the court applies the rules to the facts, right? So the first thing the court does is, what do they do? What do they first do?
Define industrial.
What's the first part of the analysis, even before they get to industrial injury, though? That's right, yes, ma'am. The first thing the court does is look to the course of employment. Okay, very good. All right. The court determines she was in the course of employment. All right, let's pause. Okay, good. And now we have to explain the court's analysis. Why did they determine she was in the course? course of employment.
Because she was acting under the direct supervision and guidance, yeah, she was, yeah.
Ooh, good. Explain that she was acting under the direct supervision of employers. What else? Oh, see my big body in the way. Good job.
All right, thank you.
I'm just kidding.
Right in that one.
Okay, so what else?
Are you guys reading mine?
Well, she argued that she was not acting in the course of employment.
Correct, no, that she was, that's where the more her employment. Cause they still have experience.
I don't know what they're
So but I like where you're going though.
Do we need to do the
I like
RCW?
this. I think what we can say is the court, so we can back up and we can say, don't even say anything else. Maybe after the second sentence, we can say the court disagrees with Ms. Rockwell as to whether she was acting in the course of employment. The court explained. Yeah, perfect. Yeah.
So the court what?
The court disagrees, right,
Yeah.
with Ms. Rockwell as exactly with her claim that she was acting in the course of employment. Disagree with Ms. Rockwell's claim that she was acting, that she was not acting in the course of employment.
Yeah, there you go.
Does that make sense? Is that right? Okay.
Well, wait a minute, you have in the very second sentence, the court determines that she was acting.
Exactly. That makes sense.
But she, yeah.
Her argument was that she was not.
Yeah.
The court disagrees with her and says, no, you were indeed acting in the course of
Yeah,
employment.
you're under the direction of your employer.
That's right, and that's our next sentence.
Do we need to cite the RCW?
We're here. We don't. I don't think we have to because we have it above here. Remember, that's why we're gonna put it in the rules section.
The court
Okay.
decided that Ms. Rockwell was acting under the direction of her employer.
Yep. Okay. What else? Is there anything else the court said to help explain this?
The single traumatic.
Falls under, Ms. Rockwell's claim falls under the Industrial Insurance Act.
Yeah. But remember, so we
So
want
do we
to stay
need to say-
very focused on just this part of the application. And so in this section, we're just talking about why the court says she was acting in the course of employment. And is there any other detail that we want to give to help us flesh this out? We have it. We're gonna have the definition is up top. What else is? I don't. Can I read with you? Huh? All right. Okay. Question before. Okay.
It's like I know you know what I'm thinking.
We're
connected somehow.
So she was acting under the direct supervision of her employees. The court said that she was complying with her supervisor's orders.
And she did it on
Employees
multiple
acting in the course
occasions.
of employment, the court considers whether the employee was at the time engaged in performance of the duties required by this contract.
And then the other thing, remember, is that the court said that it doesn't matter if what she was being asked to do was part of her job functions.
Yeah.
It's simply that she was asked to do it by her employer.
Yeah.
That's the other piece that we
That's what
need.
it is.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, but doesn't it,
Yeah, or
I
by
get how we need to be
specific
more
direction
specific,
of his
never mind, I
employer.
got you.
Or-
Is that okay?
or
Yeah.
sometimes- Yeah.
And she did it more than once. She repeatedly followed the direction. And she's in here. And so-
I said, Tiffany, are you
If she
okay?
had an issue.
All right, so let's pause for our type this in. The court explained that she was acting under the direct supervision of
I
her
will say
employees,
that.
period. She was complying with the employer's request. Okay, just put a period there. And then say, the court explains that it does not matter that what she was asked to do was not a part of her regular job function. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Do we agree with that?
Yeah.
It is only relevant that she was directed to do it by her
Specific
employer.
direction.
That's right. It only matters that she was specifically directed to do it by her employer.
That she's acting under the direction of her employer.
That's right.
And furthermore, her employer's interest.
Yeah, that's right at the bottom of page 5.
Where did I just see that? I
Okay.
saw it. but I
Right at the
didn't mark
bottom
it
of
up.
page 5.
So we'll fix this up, but this is our rough language here, right?
Yeah.
Okay, period. You like that? Let's move. You ready to move on?
We want to cite the RCW on page.
Because we already have it cited up there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I see that, okay.
If you want to
But you can't, but honey, if you want to do it, But I'm saying, you won't be deemed if you don't have it, especially if it's under your rules already. Okay? All right, we good? Next part. So now what's the next part of the court's application? So we address the course of employment, then the court, what's our transition?
Now we need to address whether or not it is covered under the Industrial Act. Industrial Act, yes, no? What was it?
Well,
Whether it's on.
you're
We need to
close.
define the
Whether it was, whether it was.
It's about exposure of it. It's about exposure to a single traumatic event or a sudden event happening of a traumatic nature.
Yeah, you're right, that's the definition, but what's the question though? It's, that definition relates to us trying to figure out what.
They're wondering if the claim falls under the Industrial Insurance Act.
That's right. If it's an injury or if it's occupational disease. So what's our transition to this? So next paragraph, please, ma'am.
In the court.
That's right.
Court,
The court then examines
the question of,
so
whether it was.
pause. The court then examines the question of, yes, ma'am,
It's an injury.
whether it's an injury
Under the Act.
or occupational disease under the act.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
This collective brain power is awesome.
I like it. No, it makes me
Yeah.
And then I can speak loud.
But the next one on his contract,
You can help me.
But this is how you guys should be doing this though. Yeah, this is what we do in case meetings. We're like this all the time. All right? Court then examines the question of whether it's an injury and occupational disease under that. Awesome. All right, so let's talk about the injury first.
Okay, the injury.
As to the question of whether it's an injury, or here's the thing. The court kind of makes the same analysis, doesn't it? Because both of them still require that single traumatic event that produces the immediate, injury or disease, right?
Yeah.
Or something, right? So if you wanted to, you could talk about these things together. Does that make sense?
Okay.
Or if it's more more clear, whatever, more fluid for you, then we can talk about them one at a time. Let's do it one at a time, okay? As to whether it is an injury, or how do you want to begin? So now we're going to talk about the injury part.
You have to
You could-
define the rules?
Hold on.
On page 8, paragraph 1, you could just quote this entire, because her emotional distress manifested as a result of events that have unfolded gradually over a period of time rather than from a sudden tangible traumatic incident. You basically could just quote the court directly there.
Yes, ma'am, Ebony?
I actually wanted to ask about that. Can we take stuff from now directly if we can?
I don't want you to do that. I like what you're saying. I like where you're directing us to, but I was gonna actually caution that part of what I want you to do and practice in this critical thinking, reading, analysis, and synthesis process is your ability to articulate it in your own words. Okay? So you're at a good spot, but now I want you to be able to read it, understand it, and then you tell me what it says. Okay? And that piece, I think, relates to the occupational disease part. Let's focus on the injury part, right?
As to whether or not it is an injury,
As to whether or not it is an injury, thank you, ma'am.
the court determined
The court determined,
it was not because it happened
or
over a
not, it is an
series of
injury,
days.
Oh, yeah.
comma, the court determined it was not
Because it was not a single traumatic.
because it was not a single traumatic event.
Or sudden tangible harm.
But it was not a result.
Yep, there we go. So, and here's what we do, you loop it back into the definition language. Right? So however we define the definition of the whatever, then we can loop it back to the language. And that's exactly what Tiffany was directing us to do there. Good. You like that? We're okay?
Yeah.
And now then we can go on to the occupational disease. As to whether or not it was an occupational disease, the court determined you all are quiet over here. Are you okay? All right. Good. Are you okay? All right. Let me know now. Ashley, you all right now? Yeah. Okay.
court determined that it didn't fall within the definition of an occupational disease
Because
because it didn't result from a singular traumatic event. Is
that what they say?
An incident. Talk about it.
An immediate or prompt result,
right. Where is it?
such as a physical condition, a little bit more.
Are you looking at mine?
Yeah.
Okay, no worries. Okay.
Page 25, right there.
An industrial injury.
Go 56.
26.
Because the rest of it's just a dissenting
And my way in left field.
So let me just, no, this is right. So, but what I want to, so, and every single time you read a case and get a different issue, you're going to learn about that particular issue, right? So we're kind of doing a lot of different things at the same time. We're learning how to write a case briefing, and we're also.
That was awesome.
I don't know what to say. Say bless you or.
That was
or,
awesome.
What was that?
I'm proud of you.
Oh, yeah, okay.
That was great.
It was okay. So every time we do one of these case briefings, so we're learning how to write the case briefing, and then we're also learning about whatever law it is we're reading about, right? And so one of the things that the court is trying to explain is that ordinarily, we're not going to say that stress constitutes an injury or an occupational disease. We're just not going to say that, okay? Because life is just stressful, period, right? So do you imagine how many claims we would have under the Industrial Insurance Act if every employer could say, oh, I'm stressed, I need some time off. I need to be off work, I need some rehab, I need some retraining, and you know what I'm saying, right? So as a presumption, we don't, it's not, right? But what they're saying is that if, however, if you have something that happens to you on the job, right? That can actually produce, though, some stress, right? But it still has to be related back to a singular event. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
It also says under 25, it says, occupational disease is defined as a disease or infection that arises naturally and proximately out of employment.
Yeah, uh-huh.
And so this was not natural to her employment. I mean,
Well, that's what her argument is.
okay.
That's what her argument is. And I think here, what's the court going to do? Is the court going to agree with her? We don't know. We got that's what we're trying to figure out right now, right? So that's what so here we get the idea about if a condition arises from a sudden and tragic whatever, then it can be we can take it.
Mm-hmm.
So stress can be some sort of disease, right? So she goes. It's not her PTSD was not the result of a single traumatic event, right?
Yeah.
Because again, it's the same argument that she makes with the industrial injury. I had multiple things happen to me. That make sense?
Yeah.
So we can kind of draw upon the same stuff. So in looking at, let's see, as whether it was an injury of an industrial occupational disease, the court determined it did not fall under the act because
Exposure to a single traumatic event.
exactly.
Sudden traumatic and will not be traumatic.
That's right.
All right.
Does that make sense? So if you look under 30, the court says the emotionally traumatic experience suffered after the suicide did not occur suddenly or have an immediate result. I'm on page 7 at paragraph 30. And then 31, the court determined not fall under this act, the trauma did not immediately result. I know what you're trying to say.
The result of exposure.
So the court determined it did not fall under the act because,
Was not
and listen,
result of exposure to a single traumatic event, right?
well, let's just use the language.
That's what I'm doing.
Yeah, so where are we at?
The result of exposure to a single traumatic event.
Yeah,
Exactly.
we already said that, and it says rather it resulted from a series of incidents over a period of time.
Oh, there we go.
Or the trauma did not immediately result.
Perfect, so there we go.
Oh, and I
You like
also
that?
put your quote. You're welcome.
Yeah, 32, yeah, definitely.
Okay?
Good, good, good. All right, thank you.
Oh, yeah.
So we okay with that?
Yeah.
All right, so now the next section is the conclusion. And do you see how, depending upon if we really understood and articulated the court's application, we have a very good indication as to what the conclusion is gonna be. All right? So with the conclusion, we're gonna go back and we're gonna answer the issue or question presented. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go back and look at what our issue was. Did I pass it?
Yeah.
Are the plaintiff's action for negligence and intentional infliction of emotional distress barred by the Industrial Insurance Act, which provides the exclusive remedy for injuries occurring in the course of employment and for occupational diseases? So what do we say?
No.
Did the trial court err in dismissing the plaintiff's action for negligence and intentional infliction of emotional distress against the district based upon the exclusivity provisions? Yes. Right?
Do we have to say why, or?
Yeah, so we're just getting the gist of it, but yeah, oh yeah, you're right. So we're going down here, and here's the thing, having done this, right, the way that you articulate these issues, we might even, I don't want you to be confused if you see issues presented like this, because this is also a tangent issue here. Where an employee is directed to when we fill in some of the information is such within the course of employment. See where we're going? See what we got there? All right. So let's go back down here to our conclusion. So we're just going to answer the question. No or do. Right? Was the first one yes? No?
First one's no.
No. What was the question? I can't see. I can't see the question. Let me go back.
Go back up. No, too far. Are the plaintiff's actions?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Control C. Control V. The plaintiff's actions for negligence are not barred by the Industrial Insurance Act. Is that right? No? What'd you say? What did you say?
Can we do that?
No, seriously, that's exactly what you should do.
Okay.
Oh my God, that's
I didn't
exactly.
go, oh, this is repetitive.
No.
I've
And
seen
then
that before myself.
Yeah. Determines. Okay.
oh, this is awful typing. Industrial. Is that okay? Let's go back and fix this so you actually says a word. Okay, let's go back up. The trial court erred.
I think it's supposed to be was acting
Yeah,
in the
she was.
course of employment, not was not.
Oh, thank you.
Wait a second.
Thank you.
Okay.
Because, yes. Single traumatic event as defined. Or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay with that? Therefore, the court erred. Therefore, the trial court erred in dismissing her claim. Judgment? What's the judgment? What do they do? They reverse. Reverse the trial court's and then significance. So what did you get out of this case? Well, in some sense, it's kind of a little bit misleading what we potentially get out of this case, because this case goes up on appeal and then she loses. You know what I'm saying? But nonetheless, what do you think we can get out of this? We do get an understanding of the terms themselves, all right? Huh?
I think it's important that as attorneys that represent our clients, they need to know how to file, what to file on.
Mm-hmm.
You have to know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but we're gonna have disagreement, right? Because that's how these cases are gonna get litigated, right? And it doesn't necessarily mean that one person is wrong. I mean, ultimately, the court's gonna make a determination, right? A ruling that says one person wins and one person loses, right? But it doesn't necessarily mean that the lawyers themselves had a misunderstanding of the law. This means the court didn't agree with their interpretation of it. That makes sense? Sometimes there will be a genuine misunderstanding. It's like, no, counsel, you're incorrect. You're wrong. Counsel, that is not what that case, and you'll hear that, right? But then sometimes it's, well, counsel, I understand your argument, but however, the court disagrees. With me? So what you get out of the case is going to really just kind of depend upon the case itself and what the issues are, right? And how you understand and receive the issues. So I think, for me, one of the things that I get out of the case is the real potential ambiguity there can be about defining what is going to constitute course of employment. With me? Because I would have never said that was in the course. I personally would not agree that was in the course of employment. And so what you come to understand is a definition that it's not that here's your job description, course of employment, and then if you do things over here, that's not. It's simply, did your employer tell you to do it? So that's for me, that's pretty significant. That makes sense?
Yeah.
So that's all you're doing in the significant section. What do you take away from the case? What do you further learn or appreciate about the legal issue that was presented and how the court analyzed it? All right, that's our case briefing. Let's take a 5. I'm gonna go get the copies, and then we'll switch gears and do the other portion of our agenda. Okay? All right. I'll be right back.
I have not seen your baby. Oh my gosh, she's cute. No, I did meet her last year. You brought her to class.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, she's so cute.
Yeah, she's here.
Oh, really? Is it nice to have her?
Is it nice to have her close?
Yes. Well, we just need to cross the street.
She is so cute.
She is growing so fast. She's going through 18 months.
So much hair since the last time I saw her.
She has
Over.
Oh, we got that first haircut.
Did you?
Yeah, it's just like the back. Like the back whole straight. It's like, what's it called? Bob cut.
Yeah.
She looks like, did she cry? The haircut?
Yeah.
We went to the kids' hair salon. I thought that would be easier, but it's not.
No, it's
Too much going on.
not.
Yeah.
She does it's like,
It's too much going on. Too
it's
much
like maple
noise.
manufacturer.
Yeah.
She's on that stage, so she doesn't like it.
Wow.
So excited.
Yeah, they checked out the class?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
They said it's just for 2 hours.
I was wondering if you didn't feel good.
Yeah, he's my special guy.
Oh.
No, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
No, no. No, don't do that. And I think I'm actually doing this correct today. So I think it's gonna be, so whatever we talk about, you'll be able to, well, this is open, we check that. And here's a hard copy. Yes, you're welcome. Okay, I hope you feel good.
I'll be there. I'm gonna sit in the back of the room tonight. I'll be
Okay, well, I was gonna say, if you're in the intro to civil, we're gonna use the same case and talk about case by case.
Perfect.
Okay?
So I'll be sitting back.
Yes, exactly.
Thank you.
Oh, there's Edward. I knew somewhere in there was an Edward photo. He's so big now, he's like up to my shoulder. It's insane. Okay, so you love him. He's 9. I know he is tall. And I'm starting to think though maybe I'm a bit.
Oh, yeah, I totally up there, Goofy. Oh, and you know what? I gotta make sure I remember to save it, so I can
Yeah.
post it.
That'd probably be good, huh?
Oh, Courtney, real quick, look.
Where you at?
I
Oh,
don't know
here,
if I
that's
have a
right.
standing one. This is my little brother. You know I told you I was the midget of the family? See that third kid? He's 4. That's my brother's kid. He's 4.
Are we each getting one or?
Did I skip you?
I don't know if I have.
I didn't want you to have one. Yeah, no.
You're too smart.
No, she didn't break our curve.
Yeah, he is about the same.
Skip her too.
Yeah, neither one of you.
Okay.
Dylan's birthday is tomorrow? Oh my goodness. Absolutely. I don't think I don't have any more Morgans. But yeah, it was nice. I hadn't seen Morgan in. The last time I saw either of them was, little Morgan was like 3 months old, so it's been a while.
Okay.
So it looks, did you say what this, the
No,
numbers?
I will.
Star 774.
I haven't started on it either. I read the whole
last weekend. Did you? I didn't read it.
It's pretty cut and dry and tasty and, yeah.
And you got different pieces of
Obviously, I've been staying there.
and it's divided by region. Okay.
Sure. It's read this weekend. Case brief.
You don't refer.
Yeah, it's, so if you're doing your case briefing, how do you know?
Oh, is that in
Nurses in
our,
library, yes.
That's me,
Oh, you did it? I know, I
And then
the example.
where she wants, are you looking at writing? Where she wants you.
You're not?
No, then we should.
Yeah,
oh,
sure.
okay.
Sorry.
What are you talking about?
No, this is for civic,
The key,
legal
sorry.
research and writing.
I guess, not, I know this is, it starts with facts, but it's like, what is
I aced my first test in that.
Did you?
class.
This stuff right here, I was a little
These are what
worried.
we call
I
They
aced
didn't
it.
care for you? I
It
was
was like a
like,
35-minute test, I got
basically,
done
it's kinda
14.
giving you an idea, like-
Yeah,
So here are
there's
all
one
of
that we
the
like all
this case
failed, I
potentially
can't remember which
So
one.
this case, what I was talking about.
And 149.
Pretrial procedure.
Yeah.
And here's
There was
like
one
the,
that-
what you can kind of get out of this case.
Yeah, stupid grandma.
This case also has an issue about pleadings. It also has an issue about workers'
So y'all
compensation
took it?
issues. You see what I'm saying? So,
It's one of those early ones.
because it's gonna be a whole
But it's all good, because you're taking it now.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's
Get
kind
it
of
out of the
like,
way.
have you
Yeah,
ever,
well, you have to take it before you.
what's
take it.
that word for the book that, like, you read a book, but then like you don't really want to read the book, or it's supposed to help you? It's like a notebook.
Cliff notes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's basically
You know what
what
Cliff
they
Notes
do.
are?
Either.
You know,
heard of it.
Book.
okay, so basically,
Yeah,
Basically, a summary.
so let's just do this. Okay, here's the book.
Huh?
Yeah.
This book right here is called
Taking
A Book About
Word
TCC,
Excel.
right? This is a long ass book. You do not want to read this book word for word,
Yeah,
page by page, right?
Look at myself right now.
This we're gonna get this thing that's called a cliff
That's
note,
gonna be easy.
right? And it's gonna be a nice little summary, all the nice nuggets in this book. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So these right here, kind of
We'll
what
have
they
the
say
same
about
teacher.
Halloween.
I love that you don't.
In this
have
way,
to have
there's
some-
all these different
I love it.
right? So we're just gonna give you quick notes about those issues.
I had no idea, you made my entire list.
But then the actual opinion itself, the point
We're talking about kids. I was like, shit.
Okay, all
I don't
right. So this is done by Webster. When you go and you actually look at the official court opinion, the official court opinion is not gonna have all this in here. This is gonna start with the court's opinion.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh my god. Yeah. You're welcome.
6 of them are here.
Yeah, my boys are huge, just gigantic.
Yeah.
I didn't save it.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I was trying to remember what
Yeah,
I was
I
supposed to be
didn't
doing.
save it, yeah.
Okay,
I
so let me
had
do this.
Edward Development.
File, save as.
I was like, oh, what is that smell? Oh, Edward.
Oh, and then I'm thinking we had part 1. We'll call this part 2. And I have a question. All right, and then let's go here. Let's leave student view. Oh, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm just gonna email it to myself, and then I'll clean it up a little bit, and then I'll post it. Is that okay?
Okay, yeah.
All right, so let's see if it'll let me do it.
Well, it's not me.
It's under the share.
He
Email.
doesn't want to sign it. He's receiving papers.
So he's not gonna know.
Oh, great.
Yeah, if it's not,
What if they cancel, they're on their email?
That's what I was thinking. Like, it might be easier just to do it the other way. I agree with you.
If it's a regular case. Which is mostly.
Maybe it won't be.
Get out of there. Okay, cool. Yeah, she'll do that.
Well, you can't be paid.
I didn't want to, because that touches on full. I didn't have
That's
that.
why I was like, what is that not there in? Which,
We have substitute
so, I don't know.
I have no idea.
Me too.
I got
That's why I keep on asking. Yeah.
I don't think it's
Keep asking, somebody will know.
Right?
Yeah, I mean, it's not opinion, like,
Well,
it can't be sort of like, not obviously not.
Yeah.
So it's.
Well, that's what I'm doing now. There's this C105.
and then they'll have to be quiet.
It's so weird.
Yeah.
Look at you.
I know. Yeah.
Okay, so.
And that's what, it probably usually Hey. Oh, I'm sorry.
I think this one might be worth the
Yeah.
best.
My skill.
It'd be like, oh, that's $20,000, I'm so happy to pay.
I know.
Yeah.
Kind of,
Oh.
I don't know.
I don't know,
I still need to.
I would say hire consult.
That's why.
Oh, me too, that's what I told her. They keep on asking me, I was like, I don't. I know that they keep on telling me. They didn't respond. And they have to, it's gotta be told. But it was just here.
I have no idea, it's international and I have no idea.
Yeah, now it's international.
Do you like Emma 106 now?
I haven't taken it.
Oh, okay. It
Emma
should be very
106
different.
Sucks now this summer, I
Well, what?
learned nothing.
No,
Wait a
what
minute.
class
Hold
is
on.
that
No.
one?
With Okay, well, I can't hear you say that. Give me like, you can give me some feedback in terms of the content. What would you like to see?
Don't
Put a
tell
big
it to
thumbs down
her.
on it.
She can.
I got nothing out of it. It was
know.
like this random, I don't really know what this course is supposed to be
Well,
about.
it's because it was like a surprise that that course was given to her, kind of thing.
It won't give me a.
She was a nice lady and what she did teach us was helpful, but I learned nothing. Giant
Like you
waste
can
of
do it
time.
online.
Yeah.
Literally, just follow the
Emma
page.
was-
All right, I'm not.
We would like go and she'd release us super stupid early and we did
That's
like
the one that'll
nothing
help.
and.
Right.
Okay, so I hope this is the fact that you can talk with her about it in office hours. But I'm
Definitely need to take some time.
gonna ask you to.
We're talking about 106, the computer class.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't
did
see
they-
why we're required to take that. That's
But they're like
ridiculous.
still restructuring it, so I'm really hoping it'll get better.
It's like
Legal
legal,
Yeah, 106. It's legal documents.
like legal
documents.
documents. I would have been, I was like, I'm so
Here's the I don't know what's going on with the class. We are trying to restructure a lot of things in the program. And I don't know enough about. Initially, when I first came here, I heard a lot of complaints about 106. Okay, and you could test out of it by taking a typing test. My understanding is that they revamped the class. I did not participate in the revamping of the class. I gave some suggestions as to the content, but I didn't have any sort of full participation in it. So I don't know what the class is like. My understanding, what I had hoped the class would be about you guys learning how to create the documents that you're gonna create throughout the entirety of the course. That way, in each of the classes that you're in with me, I don't have to spend time talking about issues of formatting, citation, legal diction, legal terminology. I thought I would embrace all of those sort of things, editing, those sort of things. Knowing how to shift documents and put it in the block format for quotations, things like that.
The
So,
only thing I learned the entire summer was how to merge all of my email accounts. That's it.
Well, yeah, he teaches us how to use it.
Not kidding.
On her defense, it's like she's not ready for that class.
Yeah, she wasn't prepped for it. We were given the
And
wrong.
it's like an extension class of PLSD 154, which is computers in applications law.
so what I'm gonna add, so here's the thing. The reason why I'm particularly sensitive to this issue is because I ask the students all the time, if you have an issue, come see me directly. That's what you're gonna do in the workplace. So the reason why I'm saying I don't wanna have this conversation is because I wanna make sure that you take the opportunity to give that feedback directly to the instructor. You know what I mean? Now, again, as a program, as the second full-time faculty person, I want the general feedback in terms of the course itself, because we're always looking in terms of how we can improve it. So that I will receive, and I'll certainly take that, okay?
Well, we should also be able to test out of it. I mean, I tried over and over again. I said, is there any way that I can test out this class? I mean, I've been working with computers for 20 years now.
But it's not just, and that's what I'm saying, I don't know enough about what they changed, because my vision of it was not that it was just gonna be a typing class. It should not just be a typing class.
You should be, regardless, you should be able to still test out of it and say, yeah, I know.
No, that's what I'm saying, no. That's exactly what I'm saying, I don't, if the course is constructed the way that I envision, no, you would not be able to test out of the class unless you were able to produce a typing test that had you at a certain accuracy and speed. You're able to produce some legal pleadings that were properly formatted with citations and all of that I could go file right now in court. Now that is something, if you can basically meet all the requirements of the course, legal diction and things like that, some dictation tests, and things like that. So that's,
These are things that I expected out of the course, but not.
Okay.
Like what we got in the syllabus and what we actually.
We did 45.
Okay. So this is good feedback. I will take this back, but I want to make sure you get what you're supposed to get out of my class.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and switch gears here. Is that okay? But I hear what you're saying, okay? And it's good feedback. Yes.
Thanks.
I can't do the attachment. It's not letting me do the attachment. You know what I did last
Need some
time?
help?
You know what I did? It's not letting me do it. But last time, what I did is I simply just copied it and sent it in an email. So I'll just do that, and then I'll fill it in, okay? I think that'll help us. Hurry up and get that. Okay. So copying. I don't want you to think I'm not interested in the feedback, okay? I hear it, and I'm gonna share it, okay?
It's okay. I am.
Yes, ma'am.
I think I'm a technical teacher, because when I took that class, I learned all of that. And I had, what's the guy's name?
Kaiser.
Kaiser, yeah, I learned all of it.
I think he did most of the reading.
Well, last summer was
Yeah, what was his name?
never.
Because I took it in spring quarter,
I learned that.
and it was great, I liked it.
She's not ready for that class.
And not every class, not every student is gonna have the same experience at the class. And we also appreciate you coming in different levels,
Kaiser was really good at it.
Alright.
Just saying.
So let's talk about gentle little changing of the subject here. So let's talk about jurisdiction and venue. All right. So hopefully each of you have a copy of the PowerPoint slides so you can take notes along that. Are we good with the lights?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is my little thing about still do your reading. These are the highlights, right? Okay. So we're gonna focus a lot on RCWs and the civil rules. This is missing something. I told you we're gonna pay attention to federal rules too. So occasionally we'll look at their counterparts, all right? So RCWs, civil rules, state civil rules, and federal civil rules, okay? That's gonna be our general authority. So we gotta talk about how we get a case started, okay? Because this is civil procedure, right? So what's the procedure that we use in order to file our suit, okay? So the language that we're gonna use is commencement of the action. So that's what this refers to. A civil action. So what do we mean when we say a civil action? Your ass is being sued.
Yeah.
Right? Whether it's for like Ms. Rothwell's, whether our action is for negligence or infliction of emotional distress, or whether it's an employment discrimination case, or it is a PI case, personal injury of some sort, okay? So the bottom line is that in order for us to get our action started, do you have a copy, ma'am? Oh, let me get your copy. I was trying to leave it. I was trying to leave Victoria
Yeah, I
out.
saw
But I
you
guess
just
I
kinda
left
like roll
everybody
by.
out.
You just kind of roll by.
Anybody else? Did I write it down?
Did Courtney get one?
I gave her one before she left, yeah. And these, remember, also gonna be on the, thank you. Why the word didn't come to my mind on here? Okay. Alright, so the way we're gonna, no coffee yet.
No.
You know, the Atkins makes you resting, so you know, I gotta get some breakfast, so.
Good to know though.
You know what, we have to remember this is being recorded. Alright, so we have to do some editing.
Yeah.
Okay, so the way we start our action, right? Okay? And we told the statute of limitations. What's the statute of limitations?
The time that you have the case is still valid, right?
Yes, and we'll talk more about that later. So the civil action is commenced, meaning it starts, and our statute of limitation is told, meaning the clock stops, when we do one of two things. Okay? We can serve our summons and complaint, okay? Or we file that. We file our summons and complaint. Now, why will we serve first as opposed to filing?
To give them the option to settle off.
That's right. Look what's coming. You want to settle? You with me? All right. So our citation for this is RCW 416-170 and CR3. When you go and you pull these up on Canvas, these are different. It's different colored text because there's a hyperlink to it. Let's actually test it. I'm glad we did the other test. So let's test everything, okay? And just make sure it's all working. Yay. All right. Yay, it's working. Okay, it's the little things, people, right? Okay. All right, so let's go back to that. So statute of limitations, again, time frame by which an action must be brought. Now, normally, the plaintiff will probably do both. We're gonna file and serve, okay? But like I said, on occasion though, we might wanna serve first so we can see if we can maybe negotiate. Is everybody okay with that principle so far? All right, so keep going. All right, that's good. So when we do one or the other, we're gonna say that the action is only tentatively commenced. So you know when something is tentatively, what do we mean by that?
It's tentative, not all.
Yeah, it's not all the way complete, right? It's not 100% complete, okay? You're almost there, right? But we got some more to do. We got some more to finalize. And so this comes into play when we haven't done both actions. So if not, if we don't do both, if we don't file and serve, it's only deemed to have been tentatively commenced, all right? And we have a little case citation for that. So there's gonna be our next rule that tells us then when we have to finish it. Anybody know what that rule is? Ooh, well, you looking at me. All right, so then we have the 90-day rule. If plaintiff files first, then we gotta serve at least one named defendant within 90 days. If we serve first, we better file within 90 days. Or guess what happens? You see what happens? It's gonna be treated as if we never did anything at all. Okay? Does that make sense? And so now, if we're beyond our statute of limitations, guess what? We're really SOL. Okay? Literally. Right? And so then we have your citations for that. RCW 4716 and 170 and CR3. Everybody okay with that idea? Alright. Now say I decide to serve my defendant. Okay? I don't file yet. So I'm trying to negotiate, right? This last thing is saying that well, the defendant can be ready. The defendant will be like, okay, thank you so much, appreciate this, but I am not settling, let's go, right? So in which case what this says is, if the defendant serves a written demand that plaintiff files the action, then now you can't wait 90 days. You better hustle and get it filed within 14 days. Does that make sense?
Yep.
All right, can I keep going?
Yes.
All right. So we talked about the idea of filing, serving. We have to talk about this notion of jurisdiction of the parties. Because, and the way that this relates is because we have to make sure that where we file, that court has certain types of jurisdiction. Okay? And we're going to talk about jurisdiction of two types. We're going to talk about the court's jurisdiction over the parties and the court's jurisdiction over the subject matter. Very good. Okay, the subject matter could be property, but it could be something else, right? Okay with that? All right, so personal jurisdiction. So the way that we define personal jurisdiction is quite simply the court's authority to exercise, the court's power to exercise, or the court's authority to exercise power over the person or the entity. Okay? Because we can sue a person, we can also sue a company, right? So that's our big term entity there. So then we have this rule that talks about this idea of due process. So under the due process clause of the Constitution, our court cannot assert personal jurisdiction over a defendant unless the defendant has what we call minimum contacts with the foreign state. What the heck does that mean? What the heck does that mean? Yes, ma'am.
You don't have an address?
What do you think?
There for so long?
Yeah. So basically, let's go down a little bit. Let's talk about what due process means first, and then we're going to go back up to personal jurisdiction. So due process, as noted here, two things: notice and an opportunity to be heard. I got to have both. I have to have both. Right? I'll tell you, one without the other is meaningless. Okay, fine, you gave me notice, but then when I showed up, I didn't have the opportunity to be heard. So what was the point of the notice? Right? Or I came to court, but I came too late because you didn't give me notice. Right? So I have to have both. Okay, and due process is so important. It's so important that you have the opportunity, that you have notice and the opportunity to be heard. We take that seriously. And it's so critical that it's mentioned to you and guaranteed to you in our Constitution in 2 different amendments. And so that's your reference there to the 5th and the 14th. You okay with that? All right. So now the way this relates back to jurisdiction is the idea is that, well, if you're going to be sued, right? Because a lawsuit is something meaningful, right? All right, and now we talk about your property, your money, your reputation, right? So a lawsuit is pretty serious. So the idea here is that there ought to be some sort of notice. You ought to be able to have a reasonable indication that you could potentially be sued by this court in this place, or in this court rather, right? And so then what we say is that, okay, there's certain things at a baseline level that have to be present in order for a person to have their due process rights protected, okay? The person should at least have some minimum contact with the state. They should know that I've had some sort of contact such that it might be appropriate for me to expect I could be sued if something goes wrong. Does that make sense? All right, so we're gonna talk about what some of these contacts could be. You ready? So establishing personal jurisdiction. If you're physically present in the state, don't you think that gives you a little contact with the state? Gives you a little bit of notice that if something goes wrong, you could be sued in the state? So that's one way, right? Domicile. You live here. Well, I would say if you live here, you got a greater chance of being sued here than if you were just present visiting, right? So you're on notice. Make sense? So if you were sued by someone and they sued you in a court in Washington State, you kind of have some idea that, okay, that's possible. I do live here. I can see how this court can say, hey, you need to come to our court in this state to address this matter. Does that make sense? A marital relationship? Yeah, right? You establish some connections with somebody in the state. Consent by waiver. You consented. You signed some sort of contract that said, hey, there's some sort of issue that comes up, we'll resolve it here. Or you just consented to the jurisdiction. Would you think that would put you on notice?
Yeah.
All right. Crime. You do some. Are you on notice that you might be hauled into a court in Washington if you go rob somebody? Right? I think so. Okay. You jack somebody's car, they might want to bring you into court, right? So those are some basic things in terms of establishing contact, right? Yes.
I have a question back in personal jurisdiction. This is, do you mind if I bring a specific case in?
As long as it's relevant, not too much beyond the scope, because all we're doing is laying foundation.
Right, no, this is relevant. We're trying to serve somebody who committed a crime in Colorado.
So you're talking about service of an out-of-state defendant,
Right.
which is kind of beyond the scope of where we are right now, but go ahead.
It's probate. It's not, we're just kind of serve the heir, right? To let him know that the probate is going on for his father.
Okay.
So anyway, we're trying to serve him to let him know that his probate is going on. He committed a crime in Washington, so we're trying to serve him in Washington, in Colorado. So, but he's not in prison anymore. We still serve by patient in Colorado.
All right, so
We can't find it.
a little bit beyond the scope, right? But we're gonna get to that in just a moment when we talk about service, okay? Because that's a different issue, right? Right now, what we're talking about is personal jurisdiction in terms of whether or not you even have the proper, whether or not that court even has authority over that person anyway. So service is a little bit later, but we'll get there. And I think we'll give you enough foundation where you can do an analysis of that.
So you're saying that the court has a right to serve a person if they get
The court doesn't serve anybody.
Okay, the plaintiff and a lawyer, right?
Where are you gonna be this time?
Just that last part where it says the court's authority to exercise power.
Yeah. So here's what we're saying. You know what? We need some models. I need to bring in some like the kids' dollhouse or something, and some people. Okay, so here's the court. We okay? Yeah. Our court saying so. Okay, here's our court, right? Okay. Here are our people. You with me? All we're saying is that before the court can sit on these people, can exercise an authority over them, there has to be some sort of relationship between that person and the state where this court is. Does that make sense? And there are different ways that we can establish that relationship. So one way it's going to be of what? That's right. What's another way? That's right. What's another way?
Consenting to.
That's right. We okay with that? Is that all right? Okay, cool. So that's as far as we've got. All right? And we're assuming right now that these people are here. They live here. They have some relationship where they're ordinarily or continuously present here, okay? So now, we're going to talk about some different types of people.
Actually, I have a question about the marriage. So say I live in Washington State and I'm married and my husband is living in Oregon and the Washington court have jurisdiction over my husband in Oregon because we're married. Is that how that works?
Where'd you marry? And how long have you been here? So these are good questions. We're going to talk about that later on when we get to further establishing this sort of list, okay? So for right now, at a baseline level, the only thing I want you to understand is that the first type of jurisdiction the court has to have is personal jurisdiction. Okay? If you're already here, then that first slide are examples as to how that's established. You're physically here, you live here, you had a marital relationship, you were living here, this matter went off later on, right? But they were living here in a marital relationship at some point, or maybe now you're here, you with me? Is that okay? Then we have, this is our non-resident person. This person doesn't live here, okay? Right? These people, they here, bam, court's on top of them, right? So now this person is what we're gonna call a non-resident defendant. So the question becomes, can this court now sit on top of this court person, okay? Or more importantly, can the court snatch this person's butt and bring them back here under what's called the long arm statute? Is that okay? So the question, the answer is going to be yes, if we can show that this person has some sort of connection with the state. Okay? So you didn't live here, Mr. Red, non-resident defendant, but you transacted some business here. You with me? Guess what that did? That makes a connection. So that this court right here can reach out its arm to Colorado and snatch your ass back up and say, hey, you need to come here, we got jurisdiction. That make sense? Yes. You don't live here, but you came here, and while you were here, you committed a tort. Guess what? Get your butt back here, we got jurisdiction. Okay? You don't live here, but you came here and you got busy. Alright, guess what? Get your butt back here. We okay with this?
Yes.
Alright. So these are some examples of how the court can establish personal jurisdiction over a non-resident defendant under what we call the long arm statute. Yes, ma'am.
Is that just work here in US or it can go international?
Oh, no. So notice we said we're talking about the RCW.
Oh, okay. So
A federal rule, right? Okay. So no, this is gonna be very different if we get to when we get to federal court and all that kind of stuff. But we will take a look at those rules. We'll glance at them. But that's more like civil procedure too.
Oh.
All right. So we'll take,
international is in civil procedure too.
yeah, we'll hint on it here. But civil procedure too, that's where we really get into the nuance. But for right now, are we okay with this principle?
Yes.
All right, let's keep going. So remember I told you that the court has to have two types of jurisdiction. We have to have a personal jurisdiction. So personal jurisdiction means authority over the person, right? And then we also have to have what's going to be called subject matter jurisdiction, okay? In order for a court to properly hear a matter and render judgment, a court must have not only personal jurisdiction, but it also must have subject matter jurisdiction, okay? So that's what that's. Hold on one second. I need to flip ahead because I'm wondering if I left something out. Hold on. That's exactly what I'm looking to see if I left out. And we're going to talk about it in the context of drawing the distinction between the two, so don't worry, okay? All right, so subject matter jurisdiction. So, remember, darn it, that's why we need that board over there. But we'll do it this way.
Flip it up.
We'll just flip it up. Now, remember the triangle?
Yeah.
Okay? Are we talking about jurisdiction? So each court, when we drew the box, each court had a jurisdiction. They had a scope of jurisdiction, a scope of authority to hear those types of cases, right? So at Muni Court on the bottom, we can hear some traffic stuff. We can hear some misdemeanors. With me? Okay? No, we don't hear small claims in Muni Court. Where we hear small claims at? District Court. So District Court, over here we got small claims. What do we hear in District Court? We get some misdemeanors. We can hear some civil cases. So long as they don't exceed what amount? $75,000. You with me? So what we're describing here is the subject matter jurisdiction of these courts. Yeah. Is that okay? All right. Now, see how this is different? Court, I don't live here, but I've been sued here. I have some issues about personal jurisdiction, but I'm gonna consent. I waive it. You okay with that? Yes. Hold that thought, okay? Now let's go over to personal jurisdiction. Now let's go over here and say, court, I understand there's a statute that says you can't hear this type of case, but you know what? I'm okay if you hear this case. I consent. Does that even, do you see the difference?
Yeah.
Does that sound right?
Yeah.
No. So over here, personal jurisdiction, I can consent. I can waive any objection, right? And once I do that, it's gone, right? The court has personal jurisdiction over me, okay? Subject matter jurisdiction, I cannot give the court authority it does not have. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So that's what this second thing here. Unlike personal jurisdictions, parties cannot consent. The court has to have that jurisdiction. Otherwise, any judgment it renders is going to be void, meaningless. All right? So challenges to subject matter jurisdiction, they can be raised even at any time, even post-trial. Because if the court never had jurisdiction, it never had any authority to do anything. Personal jurisdiction, if I waive it, once it's waived, it's gone. If I wait too long, it's gone. Now, we okay with that? Yes. All right. Let's keep going. How we doing on time?
Good. Got like 5 minutes left?
Really?
Yeah.
Darn.
10:16.
All right. Okay. So then we get this other type of jurisdiction. I don't want to belabor this. All this means, you'll see it used differently depending upon what textbook you're looking at or what court you're looking at. So this is idea of in-realm or quasi-in-realm jurisdiction. And all it refers to is where property is going to be the basis of the court's jurisdiction. Okay? And we got two ways, okay? So quasi-in-realm jurisdiction based upon property. Is everybody okay with that? Two ways. Either the property is the actual subject of the litigation, okay? The property is a subject, that's what the dispute is about. That's what we argue about, the property. That's one way, okay? Or the property is not the subject of the litigation, but it's going, I want to tie it in because it's going to be a means by which I get my judgment from you at the end of our litigation. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
All right. Cool. That's it. That's all you got to know about that.
That's it.
That's all I want you to know about that.
Okay.
Awesome. All right. All right. Next, we have this concept that's called supplemental jurisdiction. Supplemental jurisdiction. Okay? All right. So you gotta, oh, I didn't hyperlink it. Oh, I know I'm gonna hyperlink. Okay. So let me tell you right now. So the things that I didn't hyperlink are the things I was like, oh Lord, I don't want them to go and read this and go off on a tangent and be confused. So I didn't hyperlink it. All right. So the idea is supplemental jurisdiction. Federal claims already hearing a matter for which it has jurisdiction. That court may also hear any related state claims. And we're going to call that supplemental jurisdiction. Okay? And this is going to make more sense when we talk about federal jurisdiction. Okay? Is that all right so far? Yes, yes, yes. Does that mean, well, why would we do that? Let's just pause and think about that, okay? So I filed, huh?
So you don't go to two.
Yeah, just procedure-wise, money-wise, time-wise, it just makes sense. Whatever case that I brought, for whatever reason, the federal courts had jurisdiction over it, okay? There are some related state claims. So why do I have to piecemeal my action, do this part in federal court, and then come back over here to state court? No, no, no. Let's just do it all together, be efficient, right? Okay. All right. Yeah, introduce this idea of venue versus jurisdiction. Okay? So venue is not the same thing as jurisdiction. Let's pull this up. Okay, let's see. This Rockwell's case, what school district did she work for? Do we know?
Yeah.
Let's say Lakewood. Let's just make it up.
9 Mile.
Where is that at?
Yeah.
I don't know Spokane too well. Let's pretend. Let's say she worked for Lakewood, okay? Is that all right? You guys okay with that? So Lakewood School District. Okay. Now, so let's say, so this is where the school district is. But let's say she lives, let's say plaintiff and defendant though, let's say they live in King County. You with me? Alright. Now, given what type of case she filed, what court is above here?
Superior.
Superior Court. And then we have Court of Appeals, remember? And then Washington State Supreme Court, okay? And then over here is gonna be our federal system. Where'd she file her case at?
District Court. No, Superior. Yeah.
Okay, so where could she have filed her case at? So she could have filed, depending on the value, right?
Yeah.
Here, right? Okay. Now, so any superior court is going to have subject matter jurisdiction, right? Do we agree with that?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, because they hear those kinds of cases, right? So we can file Lakewood, we can file in Pierce County, right?
Yeah.
Because that's where the defendant, that's where the location is,
Yeah.
right? Can we file in King County?
Yes.
We can, right? Because King County Superior Court, Court of General Jurisdiction. So yes, they have authority too, right?
Yeah.
So that's the jurisdictional question in terms of subject matter, right? But the question of venue refers to convenience, logic, okay? Location of parties. So while King County might have maybe appropriate in terms of the subject matter jurisdiction, it might not be appropriate in terms of the venue based upon these other factors. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
The location of what happened, probably where all the other witnesses are, and so forth. You okay with that? All right.
Who determines that?
Hmm?
Who determines that?
So we always have some authority that's going to help us distinguish that. But then a lot of times the venue. So who files? The plaintiff. So a lot of times, it's going to be it's set into motion by the plaintiff. But guess what the defendant can do in their response? Make a motion for a change of venue. They say this is not the appropriate venue.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Now this, I don't think we have to spend too much time on because I think we've kind of gone through this, okay? And a lot of you I've had in other classes and I know we didn't beat this to the drum, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So when you click on the PowerPoint slide online, this is a nice little summary chart of the federal and state court system. Very, very lovely. You can go and take a look at that, okay? Just a quick review here at our federal court system level. So our district courts, those are going to be what we call our trial courts. Okay, that's where the trial is going to actually take place. Okay, our district courts. Those are at the bottom. So on our pyramid, those will be at the bottom here. Okay. Let's see. Appeals from this court, Circuit Court of Appeals. We got a whole bunch of different judicial districts. You should just kind of have a general idea and sense about this information. Okay. The reason why this becomes critical to you as paralegals is because oftentimes you're doing our filing, you're looking at our court rules, where we're going to file with that, what are the requirements of that court, and so forth. Okay. Court of Appeals. Then we have some specialty courts. Those are examples of your specialty courts: bankruptcy court, U.S. tax court, Court of Military Appeals. Okay. So these are courts where we say that they have exclusive jurisdiction, right? We wouldn't be doing our U.S. bankruptcy court issue in state court with me. Then we have at the very top of our federal system, our U.S. Supreme Court, 9 justices. Most important thing you need to know about this is that your cases, not every case gets to go and be heard by the Supreme Court, okay? What did you say?
The last one.
Yep. So we have to have a writ of certiorari. Basically, you're gonna petition the writ, okay? The court will decide, they'll vote.
Yeah.
Is this an issue we need to take? Maybe not. Everybody okay with that? Our state court, yes, sir.
How many justices to bring a case into federal court, and how many have to vote? How many do they have to say yay to get a case in? At least 4? Okay.
Why do you think that is? I'm telling you, usually you appeal everything. A long time ago. They're like, dang, you got 20 damn appeals.
Courts have such an effect on the general public.
Yes.
Like, things that are heard there are cases like segregation, abortion, women's rights, things that affect the nation.
So let's say, so you guys are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Yeah.
9. You guys are all the justices on our Supreme Court, right? Yeah. This looks really good. We got this many of these writs petition. They all want review. We want you to hear this, right?
Yeah.
What's gonna happen? What sort of factors do you think you might look to decide? Like what takes priority?
Well, of course, need.
The need. Okay, well,
Yeah.
what's gonna determine the need for you?
Like a seriousness of the case.
How serious the case is?
Yeah.
Okay. What else?
Yeah, how many people it affects.
How many
Yeah.
people? Okay, what else?
What kind of time limits there are.
Time
That too,
limits?
yeah.
Has it been going on for 20 years or is it only 6 months old?
Okay, yes, ma'am.
Agree with her.
What she said?
Yeah. First was good.
All right. What else?
If they can win it, maybe.
Huh?
If they can win.
They can win. Okay,
Just to make
interesting.
victims' rights too, if it's victims, children, whatever.
Okay.
you know.
Negative impact. What else? Anybody else over here? What about this confusion? We got all these federal courts and this circuit over here is saying one thing, this circuit over here is saying another thing, this circuit, we don't know what they talking about, right? So maybe we need to get some clarity, some guidance on something, right? Maybe it's an issue that we haven't decided in a very long time, and times have changed,
Yeah.
and maybe it's like we should hear this again, right?
Issues of religion too, maybe.
Well, yeah.
Or state
Alright.
versus state.
State versus state, okay? So those are just some of the factors that come into play, all right? But the bottom line is that now it's not, you don't just get to automatically do it, okay? All right, our state court system, we talked about this a little bit. 400,000? Is it 400,000 or 500,000? I think okay, that's right, okay. I just wanna make sure, for some reason. All right, so this just gives you an example of the general scope of Muni Court, which you've already reviewed, and you have the links to the statutes. Again, some examples of things that you would hear in district court, okay? Small claims court, housing district court, you got that, and you got a little citation to that. Okay. People sometimes get confused here about district court when it says felony cases. These are PC determinations only, meaning is there enough to hold the person, but we're not gonna have any trials, okay? All right. State court system, our superior court, courts of general jurisdiction, they can hear anything. All right, even our federal claim, unemployment, our federal discrimination claim, okay? And then they'll also be our appeals court, okay? Our district court can be an appeals court for our muni court. Okay with that? All right. Court of Appeals, appellate jurisdiction, review final decisions by the administrative agencies and by the courts below. Free Court of Appeals, Seattle, Tacoma, Spokane. Am I moving too quickly? Everybody okay with this? Just a general review of this stuff. Okay? Yes, yes? All right, where are we at?
Does the court, it goes in order by the division, right? It's the 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah. Oh, you know what? I don't know. Hold on. Division, Tacoma 2, yes, I think so. Yeah, okay. 1, 2, 3. Although I have to tell you, that was not intentional. Okay. That's why it took me a moment. All right. So let's see. Exclusive federal jurisdiction. So our if we go back to our pyramid here, we talked about the subject matter jurisdiction of federal courts, all right? So federal criminal prosecution, amnesty, bankruptcy, trademark, suits against the U.S. These are all things that we would expect and anticipate to see in federal court, okay? We can't come to state court and say, hey, can you hear this matter? I know you don't have subject matter jurisdiction, but you're interested in antitrust, aren't you? No. Okay. All right with that? All right, let's see. Concurrent federal jurisdiction. All this means is that we can play and share together, all right? It just means that this case could be heard in state court, but it can also be heard in federal court. There is what we refer to as concurrent jurisdiction. Is that okay? All right. So we get to federal court two ways, two general ways. Okay? Federal question, meaning so one of those things on that list deals with some issue of federal law, right? Federal constitution. We okay with that? Or we get there by way of diversity jurisdiction. This can mean a number of different things, and we'll talk about those. But for the most part, what we're going to focus on is the idea of the suit between parties from different states. That's the diversity factor. And the value exceeding $75,000 in terms of the nature of the controversy. You guys are looking at me with blank stares. Are we okay? Did I lose anyone?
More coffee.
All right. Okay. So this, so you intro to civil law. We cover a little bit of this, so I'm not too worried. But if I haven't seen you before, then I want to make sure that I'm not glossing over and just kind of taking for granted what you know and don't know. Any questions about this? Let me think if I have a question. But what about that case where the federal government is being sued, or maybe the person is not a citizen of the United States and they're being sued? Okay, so that's going to be diversity. Okay, all right with that? Okay. So again, diversity of parties, different citizens, foreign country being suit against U.S. citizen, controversy between citizens of a state and citizens of a foreign country. These are other examples of how we get to that diversity issue. Okay. So then,
I have a really quick question about diversity. So, like hypothetically, what if one person who lives in, like, say, New Jersey, and the other person lives in Washington State, and they're both investors in a marijuana company?
this don't really sound too hypothetical.
That's what I was just thinking.
I'm messing with you. All right.
So would it be all federal, or would it be federal and, would it be concurrently federal and state? Or
Okay, so hold on. So we got a plaintiff and defendant, right?
Yeah.
They're in New Jersey. They're both in New Jersey.
No,
one's
here.
One's in New Jersey.
Yes.
Okay, so New Jersey
Washington.
and Washington. What's the amount in controversy?
Oh,
Wait a minute. First of all, is it controversy over the marijuana plant?
No, it's controversy over who are members of the LLC.
Okay, so here are members of the LLC. Okay, all right. Okay, so what's the amount? Oh, that's it. That's the extent of it.
Is way over 75,000.
So it is okay. So what do you think, people?
Yes.
Can we have diversity jurisdiction here?
Yeah.
So can we bring this in federal court?
Yes.
Can we bring it in state court?
But even if the subject matter was the marijuana over 75,000, it's still going to be
So why? Well, because I'm thinking because first of all because you're dealing with marijuana.
Yeah.
First of all, the state laws are very different over that issue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
So you're
Colorado and
Could
Washington,
you
we
prevent
have
it? Is there any way that you can prevent it from going to federal court? Because you don't want it in federal
Yeah,
court,
you're
right?
right.
Because federal court's gonna say you can't.
Yeah.
So here's the
it's
thing.
still
If it's
still illegal.
So we'll talk about this later on, but the bottom line is that if federal court has jurisdiction, if the federal court has jurisdiction, right, and say you as a plaintiff, you bring your case in state court, right, but I want it to be in federal district court, I can always make a motion to for removal and remove it to federal court. And if the federal court has jurisdiction, then the burden then is going to switch to you to show, well, why shouldn't it be here?
Yeah.
She's demonstrated that it meets the criteria. Okay. So now, is that okay?
Yeah.
So now we're in federal court, right? We got to federal court because of that, not on the federal question, issue, right? But we got there because of diversity, okay? So the question becomes, what law do we use? So let's see, so plaintiff over here, defendant over here, let's say New Jersey, let's say Washington, right? We're in federal court because of the money is more than $75,000 and, you know, we got this difference right here. So what law are we gonna use? Because there's no general federal law outside of it being about a federal question, we're related to a federal issue, right? So,
Wouldn't it depend on where it's filed?
where is it?
Where is it held? Like, where is it traveling? New Jersey or Washington?
Okay, let's say we flipped the coin and we decided, oh, let's just do it in Washington. Okay, so we're in Washington. But why? But what? Then fine, we're gonna do it in Washington. But what law is gonna control? What's gonna help us decide?
Wouldn't you use the RCWs of Washington because it applies to the LLC that's in Washington?
Well, that's the presumption. And so what that's getting at is it's gonna depend upon where does the issue arise at. And what was it? So for example, we were talking about the LLC issue, right? Like, okay, well, do our company formally in Washington? In which case, then it makes sense that Washington law on LLC formation would apply.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So if we're in federal court on diversity issue, we're gonna look to the substantive law of the state that has the most relevancy to that issue in terms of where the action arose, where the parties were at the time, and so forth, okay? So that's what this refers to. Now, the federal procedural rules, those are gonna dictate what we file, when, how many pleadings, how many, all that kind of stuff. But in terms of substantive law, we're gonna do the analysis that I just told you. You okay with that? That's your material for today. I got one exercise that I wanna do with you. Can we do it?
Yeah.
All right. If I can find it. If I can find it, we'll do it. If I can't find it, then I'll take that as a sign we should come back to it tomorrow, okay?
Can we
All right.
waive this?
Can you what?
Can we waive this?
Can you wait what?
I'm just kidding.
Oh, yeah. No. That was a good one. All right, very funny. All right, let me see here. Oh, you guys, it's 10:37. Yeah, let's just do it. Let's do it on Wednesday, okay? We'll do it on Wednesday. All right, you guys have been troopers. It's an early class. We only had a 5-minute break, so. All right, thank you so much.
Attempt. It's our first one.
Oh, I put the case briefing grade sheet, I put it in a PDF form under the same module as the one we couldn't look at first, but now we technically can it. And what you'll see is I went back and I made some additional notes under each of the columns to help you a little bit more. What I'll do is when I go back to the office, I'm gonna cross-reference everyone's name anyway. And then if I don't see that you're on there, then I'll send you an invitation. And I'll be just accept the invitation.
Okay.
Okay, cool, all right.
Hey, did you know that Canvas has an iOS app? Like, you can do Canvas online.
Oh, good. I saw, I think we posted a link about it, but I don't use the app at all. But I just posted a link, but I'm glad to get the feedback about it. You like it?
Yeah, it's actually easier to use than like the website.
Get out of here, wow, very nice. Yes, ma'am. Let me turn this off real quick so they don't hear our chit chat.
I have the next question.
Ooh. Yikes, okay, so